chat to you about what's going on. You cannot give 888 Mad Dog 6. We got little time here for more NBA, and then we'll move on to some other things, and we'll tuck the NBA to bed. And I tell you right now, we're not here tomorrow. Don't forget off. By Monday, if the Cavs lose tomorrow, that's not going to be my lead on Monday morning. On Monday afternoon. You can write that down. I am not breaking down Cavs 72 hours after the fact after a sweep. Steve Torrey might, but not me. So this is your chance here to get back in the flow if you want to get into a little NBA. All right, now, as far as the MVP is concerned, you can't give the MVP of this series. I don't care what happens in Game 4. And although we know he's the best player and he was phenomenal in the first game with the 51, you cannot give, he's been spotty the last two for him. Good, but not superlative. So you cannot give him the MVP. Remember, I believe, and Eddie can look it up, I believe there's only one time in the history of the NBA, I've always said this, and I think I'm accurate, where the MVP came from a losing team in the finals, and that was West, who averaged about 37-38 a game against Boston in 68-69, and that's when he had a torn hamstring in the last 3 games of that series when Wilt took himself out of Game 7 at the Forum with the Celtics holding on to beat the Lakers for Russell's last championship in his last game. And I believe that might be the only time in the history of the NBA where the losing team had the MVP. Now, Jordan never lost, so that would not be an issue with him. I don't know. LeBron's lost, but, he got swept against the Spurs. He lost in 6 a couple years ago when Iguodala won it. Obviously 2 years ago, you had to give it to LeBron when he won it. And last year they got Durant won. So I don't know. I think West is the only one. There might be one that I missed. Elgin Baylor when he had the 61 in game, whatever it was at the Boston Garden in 61-62. There might be, and they lost Game 7 in overtime. And Frank Sylvia had a jumper to win it. There might be one that from that era, which I'm not familiar with, but in my lifetime, that I was somewhat following it, and I wasn't really following the 68-69. I'm 8-9 years old. That's a little young. So I can't sit there and tell you that I was on top of Jerry West and Bill Russell in 1968-69. But as far as I know, he is the only one who's ever done it. So, and they're not going to give it to LeBron in this. Now, the funny thing is, I'm not sure who they're going to give it to. Durant, Curry was so bad last night that I don't know if you can give it to him. And Durant was terrible in Game 1. Maybe you give it to J.R. Smith. Maybe he gets it. Or you give it to Mike Callahan, who overturned the call. Maybe you give it to George Hill for missing a free throw. Maybe you go in that direction. But they won't do that, of course. But I would think, it's still a little undecided. Durant's played 2 great games. Curry's played 2 great games. One lousy one. Durant, one lousy one. It probably will be Durant based on yesterday. Mike in Sacramento, California. A shot for him here on Mad Dog Unleashed. Mike, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, Mad Dog, how are you?
Michael, nice to talk. What's going on now? What do you have?
Good to talk to you. Just wanted to, I called a couple weeks ago about the Warriors, and you said, Mike, wait to crown them before they've done it, and they still haven't won the 3 and 4 yet. But the reason I said that and was so confident, Chris, like you just mentioned this morning, they have the best 4 of the best 15 players in the league, and then they kind of play down to the competition, I think, because they get bored sometimes. And I know that's terrible for the NBA. And terrible for the way, for other teams and for fans, for marketing and all that. But I really believe that they get disinterested or bored, and then they just turn it on when they have to.
Yeah, I think I definitely think that's the case in the regular season. And they underachieve, and they just try to get through the 82 games. So you're right then. No question about the regular season. And they probably this year, they got a double whammy in the regular season because 2 years ago they went crazy, pedal to the metal to get to 73 wins, and it didn't get them anything. So that and most of those players from that team are still there. Durant wasn't, but everybody else is still there. So they're a little anti-regular season to begin with, but they are not into the regular season right now. So as a result, we are in a tough spot with them getting motivated. And you're right. They kind of realize that they are going to be able to win, and they certainly realize it now after they beat Houston in trouble, 6 and 7. They kind of realize that they can turn it.
The Paul injury. They were lucky on the Paul injury.
They were. You can make the argument. I know Houston will make it for a long time, and I'm not sure and don't put Draymond Green top 4 in the NBA. That's not fair. And even Klay Thompson. I mean, that's now Durant and Curry, absolutely. And but Draymond Green's not the top 15 players in the NBA. That's not fair. I mean, that's taken. I mean, I know that people I know the coaches like him. Good call, Mike, but he's not top 15. That's not fair. I mean, that's way over the top for Green. But I do think they get a little bored. I think you're right on that point. And I think, until sometimes they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I think they may have, I think Houston threw them off. They may have underrated Houston a little bit. They had won that first game. They they blew them out in game 3. They had an 82-70 lead in game 4. They probably at times overlooked the Rockets, and I think that came back to bite them. But generally speaking, they're so good that they know they can turn it on, and I do think they get bored. I think you're right. Mike in West Virginia, he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Mike, good afternoon. How are you today? What do you have?
Doing great. Thank you for taking my call. I don't really have much on the NBA. I just don't really have a chance to watch it as much anymore. It just seemed like in the past the teams had more impact players, I guess, so it made it more exciting. And now it just seems like there's like 3 or 4 stars that everybody talks about at the same time, I guess. I don't know. My next comment was with the Colangelo thing. I just listened on the previous show about them talking about whether he'll ever have a chance at getting a job again. And I guess I agree with your earlier comment earlier this week. I don't think this is a big enough story for this to last that long. Now that they've found a root cause of it, I guess, is this going to last that long, or do you think it's just going to fizzle out and he'll just get another job somewhere?
No, he'll get he won't get a GM job right away. Good call, Mike, but he's going to get a job. His father's Jerry Colangelo. I mean, he's going to get a job. He's going to get a job because his father's probably working the phones right now to help him out. I mean, Jerry Colangelo, he's the godfather of basketball. I mean, USA basketball, and, he's on committees. This is a guy that he was Stern's right-hand man. I mean, you're talking about a big-time guy here. I mean, so he's going to get a job. Now, I don't think he's going to get a job as the general manager. I think he'll get a job in a front office and then have to work his way back into the mix. He may not get it right this minute, but he will get a job. Darren in Delaware, he's placed a legal wager. So let's ask him. Darren, good afternoon. How are you today?
How you doing, Mr. Russo? Today I placed my first legal wager in Delaware. I took, ironically, the Vegas Golden Knights to win the game tonight.
What were the odds?
Negative 150. So I'm laying, I'm laying a little bit, but it's not a terrible bet.
What's the takeout if you win? How much does the state get? What's the story about that?
Well, all I know is that it's just like Nevada, and the state's taking a big cut of the casino's profits. So it's a good thing for everyone doing it out here. All
right, so they're not taking out of yours; they're taking out of the casinos. Where is the? They had 322,000 bets first day. Where did you have to go bet? Where'd you go?
Delaware Park. Delaware Park. It's a horse track and casino. I heard that the governor, yes, 2 days ago placed the very first bet at Dover Downs. Dover Downs.
Are you only allowed to? Do you have to go to a racetrack to bet, or you can go anywhere?
As for now, the 3 casinos in Delaware that operate racetracks or casinos are the only places you can bet on sports. But I hope it goes elsewhere.
How many casinos are there in Delaware?
I'm not sure. I know of 3 for sure. I know of 3.
Are you allowed to bet every sport?
I was trying to also bet on a friendly soccer game, England versus Costa Rica today, and they would not take that bet. They're only taking World Cup matches, no friendlies.
But you could bet a baseball game. You could do it. You could bet basically anything you want.
Oh,
correct?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh,
good,
yeah.
Good for you. Go Knights for your purposes. Let's hope our good buddy there, Darren, wins his first. 4 o'clock, we continue. Mad Dog Unleashed.